Hey guys, it's Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and welcome to another episode of Viewer Commentary Q&A. So, in today's video, we are going to answer a question from YouTube user Uvis Pro, and his question was, I always forget this part. Before we get into his question, if you're new to this, Viewer Commentary Q&A is an ongoing series that I'm going to be doing where I'm basically taking random questions from across all videos on our channel, and I'm going to be basically giving a quick shout out, kind of like mention for the YouTube user that asked the question, and then I'm going to dive deep into that user's question and answer it to the best of my abilities. So if you're watching this and you've got a question, feel free to drop your question on any of my videos that you feel it is relevant for, and then we will see if I get around to that question and make a video for it in the soon future. But this will be an ongoing series, so your question will more than likely get highlighted in a future video. So anyways, back to the question that YouTube user Uvis Pro asked. He asked the question, if Spectrum Business is so good, why do I have to disconnect and reconnect my modem all the time, almost every day? He actually asked this question on a video that we did that is one of our most popular videos. It's probably actually our most viral video to date, and it's like gone completely evergreen. It's an oldie but goodie. It is called the Top 10 Business Internet Service Providers in the USA. And the funny thing is the number one, if I recall, that I stated was number one. I can't remember if I said that Verizon Fios was number one or if I said Spectrum Business was number one. But in this case, his question quite literally was, if I think Spectrum Business is so good, how come he has to disconnect and reconnect his internet modem so often? So let's talk about this for a bit. Before we jump into this, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I love me some Spectrum Business. I work with Spectrum Business almost weekly. I work with all the carriers weekly. Verizon, Comcast, Optimum, you name it, Cox Communications, Suddenlink, who else? Who did I leave out? There's so many of them, but, obviously they're based on territory. So people will call me all the time and say, hey, Prince, I need new business internet for a new office or whatever. And I represent all of the internet carriers in the United States. So I work with them all. But I will be honest with you guys and say that Spectrum Business is one of my favorite ones to work with. Partly because they have a really good footprint. The other reason is they don't require contract. They're month-to-month only, which you can't beat that and still get special pricing and promotions, and they have really fast speeds. But I talked about in this particular video that he commented on how I felt that they had really good customer service and their service quality was excellent. Back to his question, he's saying if they're so good, how come I have to connect and disconnect and reconnect my modem regularly? Now, for those of you who don't know, before I became what I guess you could call at this point a YouTube legend for business phone systems and internet service, I actually was a field technician for years. I've installed Comcast modems, I've installed Verizon modems, I've installed Cox Communication modems, I've installed Windstream modems, the list goes on and on and on. I have literally installed and troubleshot internet for many of the carriers, at least in the territory that I was in at the time when I was a technician, which was the state of Virginia, and I'd even gone to other states on the West Coast and whatnot. We don't tend to see Spectrum on the West Coast much, but they use the same technology more or less as like Comcast and things like that, and Cox Communications. It's broadband, it uses a modem, typically a Motorola or something like that, or whatever it may be. There isn't much difference between the services and the architecture. The only difference, obviously, is the legal name and the customer service and things like that. But to answer his question, in my troubleshooting experiences, and I've troubleshot a lot of internet connections for business and residential and even my own, when you have a scenario where your internet is consistently dropping off, it's like gone, and and the way that you're getting it to come back up is by power cycling your modem or whatever it may be, that's not your service provider. That is your modem. That is an equipment issue on your network. My question would be this. When your internet goes out, this is how I would troubleshoot something like that if I was in your shoes, you the viewer, you the IT person, or you the person that's having this same issue that Uvis Pro said that he was having. If you've got just a modem and you're having to power cycle, we call this, by the way, it's called power cycling. If you're having to power cycle your modem to get the internet back, Every time it drops, you have to power cycle it. That's not your service provider. That's not the internet coming from the provider out there yonder at the CO. That is quite literally, that is something wrong with your internet modem. That's something wrong with your equipment. Now, if you're watching this and you have more than a modem, you've got a router, you've got your own router, and then you've got your modem. I would say when this act of internet stops working happens, power cycle your router first, not the modem. If you power cycle your router first, your non-Spectrum business owned or non-ISP owned router first, and then the internet comes back, that tells you right there it's a problem with your router, not their modem, because you had to basically reboot your router to get it to reconnect to their internet and re-pull an IP address and all that kind of stuff. If you've got a switch in the mix, do it with your switch. If you power cycle your switch and then you find that it comes back, it's a problem with your switch. If you're somebody who's got the typical setup and you don't have a router and a switch and all that kind of stuff, it's just their modem, and you are able to pinpoint that it's their modem, don't fret. There is a catch here, a good catch. There's a silver lining, as we call it. Most of the carriers, unless you bought the modem yourself, which most people don't do that anymore these days. You can do it, but most people don't do it, you know. They just kind of go with whatever modem the service provider gives them. You are on a lease. You are paying a small monthly fee. It's usually anywhere from about $6 to $16 a month, above and beyond your monthly service for your internet and your taxes and all that. You are paying what is called a lease fee for the modem. This means that you don't actually own that modem. You're just borrowing it. Part of that lease fee that you're paying, it includes two things. Number one, them at no cost to troubleshoot and replace that and come out and troubleshoot and repair or fix or that modem, you know, at no extra cost. The other thing that it includes, and a lot of people don't know this, and this differs by carrier, usually most of the carriers, to stay up to security compliance and also just eliminate the possibility of a lot of their customers having a lot of unnecessary problems, they usually will mandate or encourage the replacement of your modem every approximately like 3 years. I've seen some carriers do it 5 years, but most carriers will do it 3 years for security reasons. What does this mean? If you're watching this video right now and you're running into the same type of problem that Juves Pro is having with having to power cycle the modem over and over and over to get internet back, and you've had your modem for a longer period of time of what they recommend that it be replaced for security reasons, compliance reasons, or just it's a good thing to not have a bunch of archaic hardware laying around reasons, chances are you could probably call your provider right now and say, hey, I'm having this problem, and they'll say, you know what? Don't worry, Bob, or don't worry, Mrs. Sally. We're going to go ahead and send a technician out with a brand new modem because we've actually updated that modem to our new and improved version for security reasons and also for throughput reasons. And they'll go ahead and just come out and replace the thing, and then you've got a brand new modem problem solved. I'm willing to bet if you're somebody who's watching this video and you've been having that dreaded, oh, I've got to re-power cycle or disconnect and reconnect my modem every single, day or couple of days or once a week, I'm willing to bet you once they come out and they replace that modem, problem solved. In short, before we wrap up this video, 99.5% of the time in my technical experiences, when I was a service technician, and even now, while I'm not a service technician anymore, I still hear all the stories about people's crappy internet or crappy phone systems or whatever. 99.5% of the time in my experiences, when you're having to power cycle a modem from your internet service provider over and over and over, that's not an issue with the internet service. That's not an issue with the service that the provider is delivering from their CO or from their satellite or whatever it may be. That's an issue with equipment. That's an issue with what we call, that's network related, as we call it. Once you get the service provider to replace that modem, I'm willing to bet you that that will fix your problem. If it still doesn't fix your problem and the modem is the only thing you have in the mix, then you have a legitimate reason to kind of hound your service provider a little bit and demand that they troubleshoot further and deliver the quality and, the stable and quality service that it is that you're paying for. So, anyways, I hope that answers this question for what, that this user asked. In short, it's almost never the provider in my expert experience in the field, and even in hearing all the stories of existing clients and contacts that have problems with internet, U.S. nationwide, and even in other countries. I've even seen this in other countries, and it's usually always the modem. It's not the provider. But I hope that answers that question. For any of you that were watching this, as well as Jubes Pro, or any of you that were watching this that, were wondering what the cause of this would be. So that's pretty much all I have for this one. If you're watching this video, please like this video if you found it helpful, and also please subscribe to our channel to support us. I release videos every single week on all things business, phone, and internet service. So to conclude this video, Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, your go-to guy for the best deals on business, phone, and internet service in the United States. I'll talk to you guys again in the next video.